We finished talking about the parallel lines having the same slope. Now we're going to talk about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. What does that mean? So if one slope is equal to 1/2, the opposite reciprocal slope will be a -2/1. So you take the inverse of this and you put a negative on it. If the original slope is equal to a -3, then the opposite reciprocal slope would be 1/3. So we take this number and we put a 1 over it. So it'd be positive and that one would be negative. This one's positive, this one's negative. So whatever the slope is of 1, you take the opposite reciprocal slope. Now, the two slopes in a perpendicular, this is a symbol for perpendicular. When you multiply the slopes, m1 times m2, you get a -1. That's another characteristic of perpendicular lines. Their slopes multiplied to equal a -1. So I'm going to write that here. The slopes of perpendicular lines when multiplied equals a -1. If you multiply the slopes and they're not equal to a -1, then you know the lines are not perpendicular. Let's go to our example. So it says find the equation on a line that is perpendicular to this equation and goes through this point. So your given line is 4x minus 5 equals 15. You have to solve for y. We do that by moving the 4 over here. So we're going to say a minus 5y is equal to a -4x plus 15. Now, in order to get y by itself, I will divide by -5 on both sides. So the new equation for the given line, the equation is y equals 4/5 x minus 3. That means my slope is equal to a positive 4/5. So my new line slope, my perpendicular line, has to be the opposite reciprocal. So that's going to be a -5/4. Okay, so my original line from this equation is 4/5. The perpendicular slope has to be the opposite reciprocal. So it's going to put the 5 at the top, the 4 at the bottom, and make it opposite. So since this is positive, this is going to be negative. So my new line is going to have this slope and it's going to pass through this point. So I'm using my point slope form to write that equation. So my slope is a -5/4 x minus 12 equal to y plus 1, because a negative makes that a plus 1. My final equation is a -5/4 x minus 12 minus 1. This equation is perpendicular to this equation. All right? And that's your notes on perpendicular.